The chamber was enormous. It stretched upward into darkness, and floating platforms held the representatives of 347 alien species. Some had scales, some had fur, some floated in tanks of strange liquid, some had no bodies at all, just clouds of glowing light. At the center of this massive room stood a single human. His name was Kong Tai-ho, and he was the ambassador of Earth. He was not a tall man. He wore a simple black suit. His hair was neatly combed and his hands were folded behind his back. He looked calm. To calm, some of the delegates thought. Did he not understand what was about to happen? High Chancellor Droven of the Morith Dominion rose from his seat. He was 8 feet tall with gray skin like stone and 4 arms that ended in clawed hands. His voice boomed through the chamber like thunder. "Ambassador of Earth," Droven said, "you have been summoned before this council to hear our judgment." Tai-ho nodded politely. "I am listening. For 200 years, your species has been a member of the galactic community. In that time, you have expanded beyond your borders. You have built ships without permission. You have traded with species outside council approval. You have violated 17 treaties and 400 regulations." Tai-ho raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. Droven continued, "The council has decided. Humanity will surrender all colonies beyond your home system. Your fleet will be dismantled. Earth will be placed under protective custody for the next 500 years. You will be supervised until you learn proper behavior." A murmur went through the chamber. Many delegates nodded in approval. The Velians clicked their mandibles in satisfaction. The Solari pulsed with pleased colors. Even the smaller species, the ones who usually stayed quiet, seemed happy. Everyone knew the real reason for this judgment. Humanity grew too fast. They learned too quickly. They asked too many questions and found too many answers. The elder races did not like this. A species that advanced this rapidly might one day challenge them. Better to crush them now. While they were still weak, Ambassador Torvax of the Velian Empire leaned forward. His insect-like face twisted into what might have been a smile. "Do you understand, human? Your species is being punished for its arrogance. You thought you could stand among the stars as equals. You were wrong." Another delegate, a floating mass of tentacles called Overseer Krill, spoke next. "We expected you to beg, to plead for mercy. Your species is famous for its emotional displays. Where are your tears, Ambassador?" Tai-ho looked up at them. His expression had not changed. If anything, he seemed almost bored. "Are you finished?" he asked. The chamber went silent. This was not the reaction they expected. "I asked if you were finished," Tai-ho repeated. "I have listened to your accusations. I have heard your judgment. Now, I would like to respond." "High Chancellor," Droven frowned. "You may speak, but it will change nothing. The decision has been made." "Oh, I know," Tai-ho said. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device. It was a communicator, standard human technology. Nothing special. He pressed a single button and spoke 2 words into it. "Green light." Then he put the device away and looked back up at the council. On behalf of the United Earth government, he said, "We accept your declaration of war." For a long moment, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The words hung in the air like poison, then Ambassador Torvax laughed. It was an ugly sound, like metal scraping against metal. "Accept you accept? Foolish creature. Do you understand what you are saying? The combined fleet of the Council numbers 50,000 warships. Your entire species has perhaps 300 vessels. This will not be a war. It will be an extermination." Other delegates joined in the laughter. The sound echoed through the chamber, bouncing off the walls and platforms. Tai-ho waited for the laughter to die down. Then he smiled. It was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of a man who knew something that everyone else did not. It was the smile of a predator watching prey walk into a trap. Tai-ho said. "My grandmother used to tell me stories when I was young. Stories about our history. About all the wars we fought. All the enemies we faced. All the time someone looked at us and thought we were weak." He began to walk slowly around the chamber floor, his footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. "The Mongols thought we were weak. They were wrong. The Japanese thought we were weak. They were wrong. Every empire that ever tried to crush us learned the same lesson. He stopped and looked directly at High Chancellor Droven. Humanity does not start fights, but we finish them. Always. Droven's four fists clenched. Pretty words? But words will not save your planet when our fleets arrive. Your fleets, Taiho repeated. He chuckled softly. Do you want to know a secret, Chancellor? For 200 years, we have smiled at you. We have bowed to you. We have let you win every argument and every dispute. We have acted weak and foolish and harmless. He spread his arms wide. Did none of you ever wonder why? A species that conquered its own world. It survived ice ages and plagues and nuclear weapons, that clawed its way to the stars through blood and fire. Did you really think such a species would suddenly become sheep? The laughter had stopped completely now. Something cold was creeping into the chamber. Something that felt like fear, Taiho said softly. From the very first day we met you, we knew what you would eventually do. The architects warned us. They left a message at the edge of our system. They told us everything. How your council rose to power by destroying young species. How you would smile at us until we grew too strong and then you would try to break us. He looked around at the assembled delegates, meeting their eyes one by one, as we prepared. For 200 years, while you laughed at us and called us primitive, we prepared. And now, finally, you have given us what we have been waiting for. He straightened his suit and walked toward the exit. You declared war on humanity, he said over his shoulder. You will regret that for the rest of your very short lives. The doors closed behind him. In the chamber, nobody spoke for a very long time. 180 years before, Ambassador Taiho stood before the council. A young pilot named Yoon Jiwoo flew alone at the edge of the solar system. She was testing a new engine. It was humanity's first attempt at faster-than-light travel. The test was supposed to be simple. Jump forward, jump back, collect data. Nothing more. But when her ship dropped out of the jump, she found something waiting for her. It was a structure, ancient and dark and covered in ice. It floated in the empty space beyond Pluto, hidden from every telescope on Earth. It had been there for millions of years. Waiting, Jiwoo should have reported it immediately. Those were her orders. But something made her stop. Something made her land her small ship on the structure's surface and walk inside. The walls were covered in writing. Strange symbols that glowed with faint blue light, and somehow, impossibly, she could understand them. The message was simple and terrible. A young species of the third planet, if you are reading this, you have taken your first steps into the stars. We were like you once, curious, hopeful, eager to meet others. We found the Galactic Council. We thought they would welcome us. We were wrong. The elder races fear any species that might one day equal them. They will smile at you. They will trade with you. They will pretend to be your friends. And then, when you grow too strong, they will destroy you. This is what they did to us. This is what they did to 17 species before us. You will be next. We leave you this warning and this gift. Below this chamber are the remains of our technology. It is not complete, but it is a start. Use it. Prepare. They are coming for you. Do not trust them. Do not believe their lies. And when the time comes, do not show mercy. They will show none to you. We were the architects. Remember us. Gigwoo stood in that dark chamber for a long time. Then she copied everything. Every symbol. Every diagram. Every piece of technology buried in the structure below. When she returned to Earth, she did not report to her commanders. She went directly to the president. Within a month, a secret council was formed. They called it Project Dawn. Only 12 people knew it existed. The greatest minds of Earth gathered in hidden bunkers and began to study what the architects had left behind. What they found changed everything. The architects were millions of years more advanced than the current council races. Their technology was beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. And they had left humanity the keys to rebuild it. It took 20 years to understand the basics. It took another 50 to begin building. And through it all, humanity smiled at the council and pretended to be harmless. Admiral Park Somi was born into Project Dawn. Her mother had been one of the original scientists. Her father had commanded the first secret warship. By the time she was 30, she led the largest hidden fleet in history. The shipyards were built in the Oort cloud, far from any council sensors. They looked like asteroids and ice chunks. Inside, thousands of workers built ships that made council dreadnoughts look like toys. General Cho Min-ho trained the soldiers. He called them the Ghost Legions. They wore armor that bent light around them, making them invisible. Their rifles fired projectiles at half the speed of light. Their neural implants let them share thoughts and move as one mind every year. More humans joined the secret. Engineers, scientists, soldiers, pilots. They lived double lives. They worked normal jobs and raised families and smiled at their alien neighbors. And at night, they trained for the war they knew would come. Dr. Han Yuna was perhaps the most important of all. She led Project Prometheus, the weapons division. Her team created horrors that had never existed before. The null wave could shut down all technology within a star system. Every ship would go dark. Every weapon would fail. Every life support system would stop. The Sunbreaker missiles could make a star go supernova. One missile. Billions of dead. The Ghost Net could capture entire enemy fleets and transport them across the galaxy in seconds. These weapons were built, tested, and hidden, just in case. Now, 180 years after Ji-woo found the architect's warning, President Bainari stood in the command center beneath Seoul. The room was vast. Filled with screens and holographic displays, officers sat at stations monitoring data from across the solar system and beyond. The message from Ambassador Taiho had arrived. 2 words. Green light. President Nari was a small woman with gray hair and calm eyes. She had known this day would come since she was a child. Her grandfather had been one of the original 12. Status report, she said. Admiral Park Somi's face appeared on the main screen. She was aboard the flagship Thunder of Earth, hidden in the Oort cloud with 12,000 other dreadnoughts. All fleets are ready, Madam President. 47,000 warships standing by. 3 million soldiers prepared for deployment. All weapon systems are online. From another screen, General Cho Min-ho reported in Ghost Legions are ready to move. We have teams positioned near every major council world. Say the word and their leadership disappears tonight. Dr. Han Yuna's voice came through from her laboratory on Mars. Prometheus weapons are armed. The null-wave generators can be deployed within 6 hours. The Sunbreakers are loaded and targeted. I hope we don't need them. President Nari nodded slowly. For 200 years, her people had prepared for this moment. They had sacrificed so much. They had kept so many secrets. And now, finally, it was time. The council fleet will be here within 48 hours, she said. They expect to find us helpless. They expect to find 300 patrol ships and a primitive defense grid. They expect easy prey. She looked around the room at the men and women who had dedicated their lives to this moment. Show them how wrong they are. She pressed the activation code into her console. Wake the sleepers. All of them. Humanity goes to war, across the solar system, in hidden bases and secret shipyards. In underground bunkers and orbital stations, lights began to turn on. Engines began to warm up. Soldiers began to put on their armor. 200 years of waiting was over. It was finally time. Admiral Torvax stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Velian Conqueror. It was the largest ship in the Council fleet, 3 kilometers of weapons and armor. Around it flew 50,000 other vessels from 12 different species. It was the greatest armada the galaxy had ever assembled, and it was coming to destroy. Earth Torvax clicked his mandibles in satisfaction. This would be easy. The humans had perhaps 300 ships. They were slow and poorly armed. Their shields were weak. Their weapons could barely scratch paint. Status report, he ordered. His second officer, a younger Velian named Crixus, checked her displays. We are entering the Sol system now, Admiral. Long-range sensors show ... Nothing? Nothing? Torvax leaned forward. What do you mean, nothing? No defense grid. No patrol ships. No military response at all. Earth's orbital stations are running on minimal power. There are some civilian transports near Mars, but they are fleeing. Torvax laughed. It was a harsh, clicking sound. They have abandoned their defenses. They know they cannot win, so they are hiding like the cowards they are. The other bridge officers laughed with him. This was going to be even easier than expected. All ships, Torvax announced over the fleet communication channel, proceed to Earth. Destroy any vessel that does not surrender immediately. We will glass their cities and take their survivors as labor stock. Today we teach the humans their place in the galaxy. The massive fleet moved forward, spreading out in a classic attack formation. The Morith dreadnoughts took the center. The Velian carriers flanked them. Smaller cruisers from the lesser species filled in the gaps. They passed Jupiter. Nothing. They passed Mars. Nothing. They approached the asteroid belt. And still there was nothing. Torvax began to feel something he had not felt in a long time. It was a strange sensation in his stomach. It took him a moment to recognize it. Doubt. Crixus, he said slowly. Scan the asteroid belt again. Full sensor sweep? Yes, Admiral. She worked her console. I am detecting ... rocks, ice, normal debris. Wait, she paused. What is it? Torvax demanded. One of the asteroids just moved. On its own. Against its orbital path. Before Torvax could respond, the entire asteroid belt began to move. What the Council fleet had thought, where ice chunks and space rocks were revealing themselves. Armor plates slid back. Engine nacelles lit up with blue fire. Weapon systems powered on with a hum that could be heard across every frequency. They were ships. 12,000 of them. Each one was larger than anything in the Council fleet. Each one bristled with weapons that glowed with strange energy. A voice crackled across all communication channels. It was calm and cold and female. This is Fleet Admiral Park Somi of the United Earth Navy. You are surrounded. You have 30 seconds to power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. This is your only warning. For 5 seconds, nobody in the Council fleet moved. They were too shocked. Then Admiral Torvax found his voice. All ships. Open fire. Destroy them. 50,000 Council ships fired at once. Plasma bolts, laser beams, nuclear missiles, particle cannons. The space around the human fleet lit up brighter than any sun. The human ships did not dodge. They did not even try. They simply absorbed it. Their shields flickered and glowed, drinking in the energy like water into sand. Not a single ship was damaged. Not a single hull was scratched. Admiral Park Sami's voice came again. You had your chance. The human fleet fired back. It was not a battle. It was not even a fight. It was a slaughter. Single shots from human weapons punched through Council ships like needles through paper. One beam would hit a cruiser, pass through it, and destroy 2 more ships behind it. Human fighters moved in patterns that seemed to predict where enemy ships would be before they got there. The Morith flagship, the Pride of Dominion, lasted 14 seconds. High Chancellor drove and escaped in a shuttle just before it exploded. The Velian Conqueror lasted longer, almost a full minute. Torvax screamed orders that nobody could follow. He watched his fleet die around him like candles being blown out one by one. He whispered, "How is this possible?" His ship shook as human marines breached the hull. They moved through his corridors like ghosts, their armor bending light around them. His soldiers fired and hit nothing. When the bridge doors exploded inward, Torvax finally saw a human soldier up close. The Marine removed his helmet and looked at the Admiral with calm, dark eyes. His name tag read, Lee Seok. Admiral Torvax of the Velian Empire, Lee Seok said, "You are now a prisoner of war. Please cooperate, and you will not be harmed." Torvax could not stop staring at the destruction outside his viewport. 90 minutes. That was how long the battle had lasted. 50,000 council ships reduced to floating debris, and the humans had lost ... nothing. Not a single ship. How? Torvax asked again. His voice was barely a whisper. Your species was primitive. You had nothing. How did you do this? Lee Seok shrugged. It was such a casual gesture, as if the destruction of the greatest fleet in galactic history meant nothing to him. You gave us 200 years to prepare, he said simply. What did you think we were doing? Across the solar system, the news spread. The Council fleet was gone. Earth was not just safe. Earth was victorious in the command center beneath Sol. President Baynari watched the reports come in. 7 human casualties. Not ships. Individual soldiers. 7 people lost in a battle against 50,000 enemy warships. Admiral Park Somi appeared on her screen. Behind her, human ships moved through the debris field, collecting survivors and salvaging what they could. Phase 1 complete, Madam President, Somi reported. Sol system is secure. Awaiting orders for Phase 2? President Nari took a deep breath. This was just the beginning. The Council had more fleets, more soldiers, more weapons. They would come again and again until one side was destroyed completely. Begin Phase 2, she ordered. Take the war to them. The hunt had begun. The news of the battle spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. At first, nobody believed it. The Council fleet destroyed in 90 minutes? Impossible. The reports had to be wrong. Then the videos arrived. Ships breaking apart like toys. Weapons doing nothing against human shields. Marines moving through enemy vessels like shadows. The galaxy had never known fear like this. Hi, Chancellor Droven escaped to the Morith homeworld. He was shaking when he arrived. His 4 hands could not stop trembling. He had seen his greatest fleet die in less than 2 hours. Mobilize everything, he ordered. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon we have. The humans must be stopped before they reach our worlds. The Morith Dominion had conquered 40 star systems in a single campaign once. They were the most feared military power in the galaxy. They gathered 300,000 soldiers and 2,000 warships at the Kelvin Nebula. It was the largest Morith army in 500 years. General Cho Minho met them with 50,000 Ghost Legion soldiers. The battle was supposed to last months. Instead, it lasted 6 hours. The Ghost Legions earned their name that day. They appeared from nowhere, killed with impossible precision, and vanished before anyone could react. Their armor made them invisible. Their neural links let them share thoughts and move as one being with 50,000 bodies. Marath soldiers fired at empty air, while human rifles found their targets with perfect accuracy. Morith generals gave orders that their troops never received, because the communication systems were already dead. By the 3rd hour, the Morith army was in full retreat. By the 5th hour, they were surrendering in groups of thousands. By the 6th hour, High Chancellor Droven was captured on his own flagship. Still trying to understand what had happened, Colonel Imyunji walked into Droven's private chamber. She was a small woman with short black hair and eyes that had seen too much death. She removed her helmet and looked at the 8-foot alien who had once ruled half the galaxy. High Chancellor Droven, she said, you are under arrest for crimes against developing species. You will stand trial for the 17 civilizations you have destroyed. Droven stared at her. His gray skin had gone pale. How? He demanded. Your species learned space travel mere generations ago. How can you do this? Yunji sat down across from him. When she spoke, her voice was calm and tired. Do you know anything about human history? She asked. Do you know how many wars we fought? Not against aliens. Against ourselves. For thousands of years, our greatest enemy was us. She leaned forward. We invented nuclear weapons and used them on our own cities. We created chemical weapons and released them on our own people. We built armies that could destroy our entire planet and pointed them at each other across oceans. Every generation, we found new ways to kill ourselves. Droven listened in silence. You think your Morith warriors are fierce? Yunji continued. Our ancestors fought in trenches for years, drowning in mud and poison gas. You think your technology is advanced? We split the atom and walked on our moon before we had proper computers. You think your species is tough? We survived ice ages, plagues that killed half our population, and we kept going. She stood up. You never had a chance. You are fighting a species that has been at war with itself for 10,000 years. Everything we learned by killing each other. And we learned very, very well. Meanwhile, the Solari Collective tried a different approach. They were psychic beings, able to reach into minds and crush thoughts with pure mental power. They had destroyed entire species this way, reaching across space and driving whole populations insane. They targeted throw. 500 Solari masters joined their minds together and reached toward the human homeworld. They expected to find soft, weak minds, easy to break, easy to control. Instead, they found walls. Human minds were not soft. They were hard and sharp and angry. Thousands of years of meditation traditions. Centuries of mental discipline. Generations of stubborn, impossible determination. The Solari pushed. The humans pushed back. One by one, the Solari masters began to scream. The mental backlash hit them like a physical blow. They were not attacking human minds. They were crashing against them and breaking. In 3 hours, all 500 Solari masters were dead or catatonic. Earth had not even noticed the attack. The smaller council races surrendered without fighting. The Valiants begged for peace. The floating beings called the Kron simply disappeared, fleeing to unknown space. Within 6 months, every major power in the galaxy had fallen silent. Ambassador Kong Tai-ho walked through the empty council chamber. The platforms that once held hundreds of delegates were dark. The voices that had laughed at humanity were gone. He climbed to the highest platform, the one that had belonged to High Chancellor Droven. He sat in the massive chair that was built for a creature 3 times his size, and he waited. Admiral Park Somi found him there 3 days later. She was still in her uniform, still carrying the weight of command that had not left her shoulders since the war began. "Ambassador," she said, "what are you doing?" Tai-ho looked at her with tired eyes. "I am waiting for them to return. The delegates. The species we did not destroy. They will come back eventually. They will want to know what happens next. And what does happen next." Tai-ho smiled. It was not the confident smile he had worn before the council. It was softer, sadder. "That depends on us. We can become what they were. Conquerors. Destroyers. We have the power now. No one could stop us." He looked out at the empty chamber. "Or we can be something else. Something better. The architects warned us about the council, but they never told us what to do after we won." Somi sat down beside him. "What do you want us to do?" Tai-ho was quiet for a long moment. "I want us to be the people I always hoped we could be. Not conquerors. Not tyrants. Something new." Somi nodded slowly. "Then let us build something new." We sat together in the darkness, 2 humans in a chamber built for giants, and began to plan a future that nobody had ever imagined. 1 year after the war ended, council chamber was full again, but everything had changed. The platforms were no longer arranged in a circle with the powerful at the top and the weak at the bottom. Now they formed a single level, a great ring where every species sat as equals. The Morith were there, but they no longer sat in the highest position. The Velians were there, but their ambassador no longer laughed at anyone. And there were new faces. Species that had been conquered and silenced for centuries. Species that the old council had marked for destruction. Species that had hidden in fear for generations. They all came to hear what humanity would say. President Bainari stood at the center of the chamber. She was not on a platform. She stood on the floor, looking up at the assembled delegates like a teacher speaking to students. Beside her stood Admiral Park Somi, General Cho Min-ho, and Ambassador Kung Tai-ho behind them. A small honor guard of human soldiers stood at attention. The chamber was silent. Every eye, every sensor, every consciousness was focused on the small human woman with gray hair and calm eyes. "Thank you for coming," President Neri began. Her voice was soft, but it carried to every corner of the vast room. "I know many of you are afraid. I know you expect us to do what the old council did, to punish you, to take your worlds, to become your new masters." She paused and looked around the chamber. "We are not going to do that." A murmur went through the crowd. Confusion, disbelief. 1 year ago, the Galactic Council declared war on humanity. They wanted to destroy us because we grew too fast, because we asked too many questions, because we made them afraid. She began to walk slowly around the chamber floor. They were right to be afraid. Not because we are violent, not because we are cruel, but because we remember what it is like to be small and weak and alone. We remember what it is like to be young. She stopped in front of a delegation of small, furry beings. They flinched when she looked at them. Their species had been slaves of the Morith for 300 years. "You are the Pellini," she said gently. "Your homeworld was taken from you when your species had just discovered fire. The Morath killed 90% of your population and used the rest as servants." She reached out and touched the lead delegate's paw. He trembled, but did not pull away. "You are free now. Your homeworld is yours again. We have already removed the Morith forces." Tears began to fall from the Pellini delegate's large eyes. He tried to speak, but could not find words. President Nari moved on. She stopped before another delegation, tall beings made of living crystal. "Your species was marked for destruction by the old council because your crystal technology might one day rival theirs. They planned to shatter your world within the next decade." She smiled at them. "That will not happen. Your world is under Earth's protection now. Develop your technology. Grow, expand. We will not stop you," she continued around the chamber, speaking to species after species. The Kron, who had fled in fear, received promises of safety. The Siluri, whose psychic masters had died attacking Earth, were offered medical help for their wounded. Even the Morith and Velians, the greatest enemies of humanity, were not punished as they expected. "You will face trials," President Neri told them. "Your leaders will answer for their crimes, but your people will not suffer. Your worlds will not burn. Your children will not pay for the mistakes of their parents." Finally, she returned to the center of the chamber. "Humanity could have become what you were," she said. "We had every reason to. Our history is written in blood. We know how to hate. We know how to destroy. We have done terrible things to each other." Her voice grew stronger. "But we also know how to forgive. We know how to rebuild. We know how to look at an enemy and see a future friend. This is what makes us human. Not our weapons. Not our technology. Our choice to be better than our worst instincts." Admiral Park Somi stepped forward. "Earth proposes a new galactic compact," she announced. "Equal membership for all species. No more elder races. No more young species marked for destruction. Every civilization will have a voice. Every civilization will have protection." She looked at the assembled delegates with eyes that had seen so much death. "Those who join will receive our technology freely. Our medicine. Our knowledge. We will help you grow. We will defend you if you are attacked. And we will never, ever treat you the way the old council treated us." General Cho Minho spoke next. "Those who refuse the compact will be left alone. We will not force anyone to join. But know this: if any species attacks another without cause, if any civilization tries to destroy the young and weak as the old council did, we will stop you. This is not a threat. It is a promise." The chamber was silent for a long moment. Then the Pellini delegate stood. His voice was small and shaking, but it carried. "The Pellini accept the compact. We never thought we would be free again. Thank you." One by one, other species rose. The Valori, the Kron, dozens of smaller civilizations that had lived in fear for centuries. Even some of the Morith delegates stood. They looked ashamed, but they stood. The vote was not unanimous. Some species chose to leave, to find their own path, but they were few. When it was over, President Nari smiled. "Then let us begin," she said. "Let us build something new together." 5 years later, Ambassador Kong Tai-ho visited the memorial hall on Earth. He was older now. His hair had gone gray, but his eyes still held that spark of something sharp and knowing. The memorial was simple, a wall of names, a single plaque. He read the words again, as he did every year. They thought we were sheep. They forgot that humanity spent millennia learning to be wolves, so we could choose to become shepherds instead. Tai-ho smiled. It was a peaceful smile now. The smile of a man who had seen his species become something better than it had ever been. Outside, ships from 100 different worlds filled the sky. Children of species that had once been enemies played together in parks. Scientists from across the galaxy worked side by side, solving problems that had seemed impossible. The galaxy had changed, and humanity had changed it. Not through conquest. Not through fear, through choice. And that, Tai-ho thought, was the most human thing of all.